It's time for the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle. Stay tuned as we discuss local and national sports from Southeast Missouri and beyond. The Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle is brought to you by Royal Retros. If you like cool throwback jerseys of defunct sports teams, Royal Retros is the place to buy. If you go to royalretros.com and you order with the code SPORTSDESK, all one word, you can get a little bit off your order. So check out Royal Retros. And now on with the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle.
And welcome to the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle. I'm Mike Bueller, back in studio this week.
I'm Mark Sanders.
And this is Kyle Roberts.
And guys, we've got a very full show today. We are going to be talking some local sports. We've got a lot of basketball going on. We've got a tournament slated to start next week if the snow don't get it. And I also want to talk a little bit of Raiders and Lady Raiders. We are going to be recapping the CFP and one of the greatest Cinderella runs in the history of American sports, period. And we are also going to be talking a lot of National Football League, if nothing else, not only because we have the NFC and AFC championship games this weekend, but my team has a football coach.
Yay. And you didn't screw it up. You actually hired a guy who's worthy for the position. Amazing.
Definitely.
And I'm pretty excited about it, and we are going to talk about that in a little bit. But we are going to lead off by talking high school sports. Mark, you were at the Poplar Bluff Mules game last night and covered that. Give us some thoughts.
Unfortunately, the Mules fell into a big hole early in the first quarter. They were hanging with the Jackson Indians for the first 3 minutes of the game. The score was 7-6 in favor of Jackson. And then the Indians went on a 20-0 run to end the quarter up 27-6. And the Mules were just never able to dig out of that hole. The scoring in the second quarter was 3 points in favor of Jackson. Excuse me, at 19-16. So the Mules were down again by double digits at halftime, but they came out in the third quarter. Dallas Williams hit a couple of big threes. They turned Jackson over. Jackson came out a little bit cold on the offensive end, and the Mules, excuse me, the Mules were jumping up, pulling down rebounds, running in transition, and they whittled that big Jackson lead down to 8 points about halfway through the third quarter. So it looked like it could possibly be a dramatic comeback. Unfortunately, Jackson just has a lot of talent, especially their 6'8" forward, John Ernst, and he was a force in the lane and underneath the basket, both in terms of just powering through for layups as well as grabbing rebounds. And once Jackson stabilized the ship, so to speak, and started scoring on their end, that they pushed the margin back up to 14, 16, 18 points throughout. Give the Mules credit; they didn't give up even in the fourth quarter. Down by double digits, they were still grinding. Hit a couple more big threes. Ended up losing by 17. But again, when you think about that, they were down 21 at the end of the first quarter, lost by 17. So if they could have just played in that first quarter the same way they played in the other three quarters, it probably would have come down to the last 2 minutes to see who could win that game. I spoke to head coach Will Durden after the game, and he acknowledged that the team just has to get out of that mindset of worrying about scoring so much in the first quarter and just focus on defense, focus on turnovers and rebounds and scoring in transition the way they did the other three quarters of the game. So, in the end, I think the game reflected both teams' records. Jackson is 15-1, and they are certainly favored to move ahead in the Class 6 playoffs, while the Mules fell to 5-6. And if you look at their numbers, they score about as many points as they give up. So, statistically, they're just an average team. I give them credit for not giving up and playing hard. But, the outcome was pretty much decided in the first 8 minutes of the game. And if the Mules want to improve their record and maybe make some noise in the district tournament, they're going to have to get a handle on that.
Agreed. And, they played a really good Jackson team last night, which I think is a top 10 team in Class 6. But it has been, some struggles this season for the Mules. I think they've still got a chance to right the ship. However, they are in a very tough district. I believe they're in district with Cape Central and Sykeston. Cape Central's battled some injuries, but if Central gets healthy, they're probably going to be a contender to, possibly win that district against Sykeston, but they got to get healthy. Big game last night we haven't talked about yet was over in Puxico, where the Dexter Bearcats and the Puxico Indians engaged in, a very anticipated clash. Puxico ended up winning that game by about 15 points. That's a big game, not only because it's just ahead of the county tournament next week, if it doesn't get snowed out, because we do have a big snowstorm that's slated to roll in here this weekend.
Hold on. 3 inches of snow forecast. So let's pump the brakes a little bit on the big snowstorm, okay?
Well, actually, they've upped the totals. They're saying we could be getting closer to a foot.
Oh my goodness! I don't believe a word of it. And someday when it's a slow sports week, I'll tell you about the no snow day that happened about 15 years ago. But let's go. let's go ahead.
But yeah, that was a big game last night over in Puxico. It was a 2-point. I think it was either a 2-point or a 4-point game at half with Puxico leading. But the host Indians managed to pull away in the third quarter. Ended up winning by about 15 points. They also seeded the Stoddard County tournament. We had that on our Facebook page. I'm going to pull that bracket up real quick because I want to talk about the county tournament.
Okay, while you're pulling that up, I just want to say I got lucky on the coverage draw this week, and I'm going to be at Bernie on Friday night for the big matchup between Puxico and Bernie. Puxico sitting at 16-1, maybe 17-1 after last night, and then Bernie's sitting at 2-4. These are two teams that have squared up in the past. Well, I mean, they play every season. I've seen them play at the Bloomfield Christmas Tournament, and it's always a really tough, exciting, hard-fought matchup. So I'm looking to have some fun this Friday night covering this game.
That's going to be a good game. Those are two teams, especially when I was in high school back in the late 80s and early 90s, that had a very intense rivalry. Bernie went to the state finals in 1989 with Anthony Bean, and then the year after that, Puxico won a district title in 1990 with Brian Blackburn leading them. And then Bean and Blackburn both graduated from high school and came to play at Three Rivers and helped the Raiders win a national championship in 1992.
Pretty exciting.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun stuff coming up. Weather permitting, the Stoddard County Activities Association tournament kicks off on Monday at Bloomfield. I don't have the JV bracket in front of me. We're going to talk about varsity. Monday kicks off with the number 2 seeded Puxico Indians taking on host Bloomfield at 4 o'clock. And then at 7 o'clock that night, 4th seed Bernie will play number 5 seed Advance. That's going to be an interesting game because Advance started 4-7, but started a 3-game winning streak when they went down to Bernie. Got a nice first half lead and held on for a 48-45 win. Advance had that winning streak ended last night by a very tough Scott City team. However, the Hornets, looking at their schedule on the back end, they got a chance to make a little noise down the stretch and, have a chance, I think, at their first winning season since winning districts 3 years ago.
Yeah, that's always a great tournament. We like I mentioned, Bloomfield Christmas Tournament. We see a lot of those teams in those brackets, but I think this time around it's going to mean a little bit more. And also, teams are starting to tune up for their run in the district tournament, which is coming up in just a few weeks. It'll be here before we know it.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, I want to turn our attention to the girls' side of the varsity court. The Donovan Donettes, currently sitting at 14-1, travel to Southern Butler County to take on the Neelyville Lady Tigers, who have an equally impressive 12-3 record. This is going to be a barn burner of a game. Neelyville is going to be ready. They've got their sights set on upsetting the Donettes, and I think it could be a really good game. I am unfortunately elsewhere. Somebody else got that draw. Actually, Lee Aldwin got the draw to cover the game in Neelyville.
I'm going to enjoy that one.
Yeah, I'm going to be over in Brosley covering Twin Rivers girls, who also have a good team, so that's going to be good. But I think this is the pick of our women's games, at least in high school, over the upcoming week.
Who does Twin Rivers have tomorrow night? Or tonight, actually, by the time we air.
Yeah, I'm going to have to look that up because I am old and my memory is not nearly what it used to be.
Well, while you're doing that, I want to mention Twin Rivers and Delta had a really intense girls game Monday night over at Delta. I think the host Lady Cats won that game, but that was a barn burner, and it looks like that Twin Rivers is playing Kennett. That's a really good Kennett team. Twin Rivers has been coming on. That's going to be a good matchup. I think you got a pretty good draw, Mark.
Oh yeah, I mean, I absolutely got a great game. I mean, this is just as good. Lady Royals are sitting at 11-5. Kennett is a game and a half better than them at 12-3. Of course, Kennett's a Class 4 team. Twin Rivers Class 3 team. But looking at the matchup, Kennett has a bit of an edge in average scoring, 58-51, while also a similar edge on defense, 40 points given up to Lady Royals, giving up 43. But Twin Rivers is playing at home. That place is going to be packed out and loud, loud, loud. So, yeah, Thursday night's going to be a lot of fun in girls high school basketball.
Yeah, I think you're going to have fun on that one. I want to get back to the Stoddard County tournament real quick because we do have a couple of matchups I want to address on Tuesday night, a couple first-round matchups. At 4:30, top-seeded Woodland is playing Richland. I would say that the Cardinals are going to be heavily favored in that game. And then the first round concludes with third-seeded Dexter taking on number 6 Bell City at 6 o'clock. That's going to be a good matchup. The semifinals are going to be Thursday of next week, and then the championship is going to be on Friday night at 8:30. There's going to be some good matchups. And here's the thing about Stoddard County. Last year, 4 of those Stoddard County Conference teams won district titles. 2 of them went to the Final Four in their respective classes. I think there's at least 3 teams that have a pretty good chance to win districts this year. Puxico and Bernie are in the same district. I think there's a really good chance one of them is going to win their district. Bell City is a contender to possibly make some noise in Class 1. Dexter is got a shot to win a district in Class 4. Woodland is probably going to be favored to win its district in Class 3. So these are some good matchups, and it's going to be fun to watch.
Oh yeah, Woodland is I think my favorite to win that Stoddard County tournament. Even if they do go up against Puxico, I think they're both in the tournament, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they're on opposite sides, so they would theoretically not meet before the finals.
Yeah, that I think that's just looking at favorites. That's probably how it will come up. But Woodland has a considerable size advantage over Puxico. I think Puxico may have a shooting advantage, especially if Landon Burchard gets hot from three-point land. So, man, that is going to be a game. Woodland's currently sitting at 14-1 in Class 3 District 2, scoring an outrageous 74 points a game. Their defense could be a little bit better. They're giving up 57 points a game. But again, when your average offense is scoring more than 20 points in your defense, you can afford to have a little bit of let up on that end. So, yeah, it should be a good tournament.
I agree, and there's some good players that are in that county tournament. I did a story that's on SEMO Ball. There's some pretty outstanding players in that tournament. Puxico's got Landon Burchard and Jet Hancock. Burchard's an absolute scoring machine. Woodland is led by Corbin Kinder, who is the coach's son. And Corbin's mom, the former Rebecca Ballou, was a really, really good high school player at Delta. Coach Kinder was also a really good high school player there back in the late 90s. Dexter's got some good talent with Will Geatley, Kyle Nichols, Elijah Ibrahim, and Devin Turnbow. And, and one fun thing about this Dexter bunch, most of these kids, I think except for Turnbow, 3 of these kids have, Raider connections. Will Geatley's grandfather played on the 1979 championship team. Kyle Nichols' mom played on the Lady Raiders 1995 team that went to nationals. His uncle Benji Johnson was on the 1992 national championship team. And Elijah Ibrahim's dad, Yaya, was a Raider in the early 2000s. I covered him when I was, starting out as a rookie sports writer. Bernie's got John Aycock. They've got Kane Hobgood, Blaine Morgan, Chase Geiling. There's so many good players in that county. Advance has got, Rogers and Rogers, Brody Rogers, Hunter Rogers. They've got, several, you got some other kids, Caleb Henson's a good 3-point shooter. Bell City's got some good kids. Juan Hernandez can score. Blake Gerald's coming on. Logan Pikey has came on. Bloomfield's got Wyatt Golden that can score a good amount of points. Gary Tilley's a returning All-Stater for Richland. That's going to be a fun tournament. I'm hoping I'm not snowed in too long because I would love to get over to some of that.
I'm still skeptical about the snow.
Well, I'm hoping you're right because I don't like being snowed in. I live out in the hills, and if we get that much snow and it turns off as cold as it's supposed to turn off, I may not be getting out until the end of next week, if even then, and I may have to be phoning in my part of the show next week, which, yes, we can do, but it's not near as fun as being here in studio. On that note, we're going to switch gears and talk about the Raiders and Lady Raiders. We are taping before the Wednesday night games against the Crowder women and the West Plains men, but the Raiders and Lady Raiders both got big wins this past weekend against Mineral Area. The Lady Raiders rallied from a halftime deficit to take a solid win over the Mineral Area Lady Cardinals. And then on the men's side, the Raiders beat Mac at the Libel Family Sports Complex by 13 points. And what stands out about that is many things. One, Mineral Area is a really good team. They're very talented. Coming into that game, 3 of their 6 losses were to like top 5 teams. We have not beaten Mac in our building in close to 4 years. We looked really good this past Saturday night.
Yeah, that's great. And the Raiders men's team just continues to exceed expectations. They've run the record up to 15-5. And did I see something that they're ranked in the top 20 nationally now?
The women are ranked 14th, but the men have a big game Saturday afternoon, weather permitting, at Moberly. And Moberly is still ranked 21st in the country despite getting beat at home by State Fair last Wednesday. But one thing that's really cool about this Raiders team is something I told some friends of mine. We were talking yesterday, and I'm gonna pull up what I sent them real quick because I'm looking through our group text, and I think I said, not sure how many people have noticed, but Raider basketball is starting to feel like Raider basketball again. Not only because we're 15-5 and leading the region, but I've been hearing we're battling to recruit a lot of really talented local guys. I mean, and this is a good year for local talent. We just talked about Corbin Kinder, Landon Burchard. There's some good local kids. There was a kid down at Cooter last Friday actually. Cooter went up to Ellington, and this kid, his name's Rice Lynn. He hit 19 3-pointers. That's a state record. Scored 59 points
in one game.
That's right.
That is incredible.
In regulation too.
Yeah. Yeah. Because
Wow.
Yeah, Cooter won that game 111-35. Yeah,
that's insane. Shooters don't even get 19 attempts in a game.
I talked to Coach Mathis, it's Coach David Mathis, and he said, we tell our kids whenever somebody's got the hot hand, keep feeding them. And he had the hot hand, and they kept feeding him, and he kept draining them.
Wow. Credit to the Raiders men's team for making a real effort to be part of the local sports community. Most of the roster was on hand last night at the Poplar Bluff High School gym to watch the Mules game against the visiting Jackson Indians. And they were introduced before the game, and it was really nice to see the Raiders there supporting the local high school team.
I agree. Like I said, Raider basketball is starting to feel like Raider basketball again. I'm really excited for it. Like I said, we're taping before the Wednesday night games. We're sitting here on Wednesday morning. I'm excited to be at the games tonight. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I've got my camera. I'm ready to take some pictures. I'm ready to see us get a couple more nice wins. But wow, guys, on that note, we are going to switch gears. And when we come back, we are going to talk about the college football playoff because I know Kyle in particular is just itching to talk about that one here on the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle.
This is Three Rivers men's basketball coach Robert Kirby, and you are listening to the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle.
And we are back on the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle, and we just finished talking a little bit of college basketball. Now we are going to talk some college football. And Monday night, one of the most exciting and memorable college football championship games ever, the Indiana Hoosiers beat the Miami Hurricanes, 27-24, to complete an unbelievable run to a national championship. College football is more Mark and Kyle's wheelhouse. I know Kyle is ready to go. And on that note, we are going to dive into it. Kyle, Mark, go.
Oh, it was lovely. It was absolutely lovely. And it still feels a little weird to say out loud that the Indiana Hoosiers are the national champions of college football, and I'm not playing college football 26 in a dynasty mode. However, this is exactly what college football, at least at the FBS level, this is exactly what it needs. I mean, this proves that it is absolutely possible. You don't need a million 4- and 5-star recruits to get it done. Sure, people can say, well, Mark Cuban, NIL, he went there, he's got all this money. Yeah, guess what? You still got to nail the coach. By God, who's made a better coaching hire than Indiana? Google him. He wins. He told you.
Yeah. Yeah,
Jesus.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that, and it's a truism in football, but it's a truism because it's true. If you can get the head coach and the quarterback right, it becomes a lot easier to win. And we saw two really, really good teams, and I'll tell you what, Miami deserved to be in that championship.
For sure.
They were just a couple of inches away from coming back and winning that game at the end. They gave Carson Beck and the Miami offense more than a minute to try to come back and tie it with a touchdown and then win it with an extra point. And they drove all the way down into Indiana territory until Indiana sealed the game with an interception of a Carson Beck pass deep. But it's just it is a game of inches, and I think that probably most people did not expect the game to be as close as it was. Miami was within striking distance the entirety of the game, but again, give Indiana all the credit in the world that they knew that they had a tough test on their hands. All credit to that Miami defense. They're sending at least 3 or 4 players off of that defensive roster into the NFL, and at least 2 or 3 of them are going to be impact starters as rookies. And I think there's really nothing but more good things to look forward to in the future from both of these programs. Unless
it's great to have the Miami Hurricanes being on a relevant national stage once again. That's one of the things that felt right. I gotta say, if I'm a Miami Hurricanes player, not only am I disappointed that we lost the game in our home stadium, but when you play for Miami, you've got to consider the litany of alumni and former players that you're playing in front of. Michael Irvin, Ray Lewis, like The Rock even made a video on Twitter to supporting his alma mater. But it's heavy. It's a heavy responsibility when you wear that U on the side of your head. But man, what was most beautiful to me, and this is a little bit of my petty side coming out of here, is the fact that Pat McAfee, who gasses up Indiana like it's nobody's business, got to relish in calling this game on his side of the broadcast, while Notre Dame's head coach Marcus Freeman had to sit there and eat all the crow in the world. Womp womp. To the other school in Indiana. Yes, I just referred to Notre Dame as the other school who plays football in Indiana.
You got to be careful when you say things in public. Stuff becomes bulletin board material, and if you don't want to eat your own words, don't serve them.
No, and everything came back to bite the Irish. But for the Indiana Hoosiers, what they've done is shown all these other programs that are historically lesser than on the field, such as Northwestern, who I've been championing as somebody to watch out for next year. Because, listen, that's the Glee School. They got money if they so choose, like the Stanfords and all of them, And for programs that have been good, but it can't get over the hump, i.e. a certain school in Columbia you might know about, no longer is there excuses. Now you have the blueprint. But again, you've got to nail the coach. And I got to say, there's a lot of excellent college football coaches. Is anybody mentally wired like Kurt Signetti is?
Yeah, I mean, just, you can see the intensity in his eyes whenever they put him on camera, and his team played with that intensity throughout the season. Now, we all know that Fernando Mendoza is going to be the number one pick in this year's NFL draft. Unfortunately, he's going to be fortunately for him, he's going to be in Las Vegas, which I've heard is just one of the great cities in the world. Unfortunately for him, he's going to be playing for the Raiders, who's one of the worst teams in the world.
Fortunately, though, he has a certain Thomas Edward Patrick Brady II to work with him.
Yes, this is absolutely true, and probably a much better head coach. All respect to Pete Carroll's career, but your resume doesn't coach. The person has to. But what I really wanted to point out and ask you, Kyle, is that a couple of years ago, people were talking about Carson Beck when he was coming out of Georgia as being a first-round quarterback pick. The past 2 years, his stock has dropped. But even though they didn't win a national championship, that last interception notwithstanding, I think Beck availed himself really well in these college playoffs. Where do you think he's going to go in the draft this year, and do you think he can be successful as a starter in the NFL?
Potentially a successful guy. I don't know about a starter. I have him. I give him about a 4th-round grade, quite frankly.
That sounds about right.
And on that final throw, as soon as he released it, I said that's a pick. Because I watched the coverage. Indiana baited him and gave him false security to let that they played inside technique with their cornerback Jamari Sharp, who gave the receiver a free run, and I said Beck's going to throw that ball deep, and he underthrew it. That's more, and not being able to recognize cover two. For a quarterback, that's elementary. Beck is a guy that could. I think he'll be an early day 2 pick because. There's a lot to work with him. There's a lot of positives, but let's be honest, Malachi Toney made him look a lot better this year than he absolutely was. Because that kid, boy, if he could declare for the draft right now. But I got to say, going back to Mendoza, we always talk about with Heisman Trophy winners, how every guy has their Heisman moment. Dare I say, Fernando Mendoza had 2 Heisman moments this season. The throw to beat Penn State at Happy Valley, and that touchdown run to basically just to seal the national championship. Did that not give you, by the way, John Elway's airplane or helicopter spin and Super Bowl 32 vibes?
Yeah, you couldn't help but think about that. We don't give a whole lot of credit to the college football powers that be, but. I think now that the tournament is over, this has been an extremely successful college football playoff, and I think all of the viewing ratings are going to respond to that. But we've been threatening all of you with a deep dive into how we can reorganize and restructure college football to make it better, to bring in more opportunities for more schools. But I think the 2 most practical things that college football can do, and I've alluded to this. Number 1, expand the tournament to 16 teams, okay? I mean, it's like 12 worked.
I agree.
Yeah, 12 worked great. Let's put in 16 more teams. And you also avoid a lot of the controversy that always ensues once those 12 teams are picked, because I mean, with 16 teams this year, there's no Notre Dame controversy. You can put Notre Dame in, and then they can get beat, and then everybody can shut up about it. I have my apologies to my friends who are Notre Dame fans, and I have a couple, but I mean, come on, guys, Notre Dame wasn't going to win the Natty this year. I mean, it's like let's be realistic. You can always just slot, if you need to, that 16th place for Alabama, since it doesn't matter what the record is, they get in anyway. But just 16 is so much more practical. And then the second thing that we absolutely have to do, okay, as soon as you've got regular season, then the next weekend you have your conference championship games, and then start the stupid playoffs right after that, so that and do it every week. Don't have a week off. Okay, stop competing with the NFL playoffs, which is they're right in the middle of that. Waiting until January 19th for the championship game is 3 weeks too long.
That is egregious.
Yeah, I mean, you get to the point where it's almost like all apologies to you and Tuck. It's almost like the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs, where it's like it's the middle of June. It's like, what, are they still playing hockey? Really? I mean, it's just they drag out these playoff games and bowl games way, way, way too long. Get it done in a month, folks.
And I'm a big proponent also of cutting down the amount of bowl games and raising the eligibility of entry into bowl games. You've got to win at least 7 games. Because if you lose, guess what? You're still guaranteed a winning season. I don't want to see 5 and 7 teams in because we didn't get enough teams in. So Mississippi State, you finish 5 and 7, you go play Wake Forest in the Duke Mayo Bowl.
Yeah,
and then go get destroyed. I actually just found an article, by the way, regarding the expansion discussions on the CFP from ESPN 2 days ago, by Heather Dinich, where the consensus is expanding to 16, but we're going to remain at 12 for at least one more season before looking to go to 16. Personally, I'd like to see 24. Now, this is from the article. There's overwhelming support in the room for a 16-team playoff to begin as soon as 2026, sources said, but the Big Ten won't agree to it unless the SEC agrees to a 24-team format in 2029.
24 is too many. 24 is too many. This isn't college basketball, okay?
I know the FBS Division II and Division III all do 24 teams. All conference champions get in.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you wanted to do that way and you wanted to bring in more of the traditional bowl games, the second tier bowls. My only thing about changing the structure of the bowl games, there is one thing that is absolutely sacred and holy and can never be touched. And that's the Pop-Tart Bowl.
Yes.
The Pop-Tart Bowl is the most. I mean, it is like the Savannah Bananas of college postseason football. Yeah, it's fun. They should all follow this model. They don't necessarily have to have a gimmick or anything like that. But seriously, if you're not part of the college playoff process, make it a party. And the folks at Kellogg's, for God's sakes, got it right. The Pop-Tart Bowl is an American treasure.
A lot of these bowl games that just understand, hey, this is fun. These guys get to spend one more game playing with their teammates. For seniors, it's one last chance to go out and compete. And a perfect example is the inaugural Xbox Bowl. Oh. As a gamer, I greatly appreciate this, but not only for my Arkansas State Red Wolves who won the game, but this was the first ever bowl game for Missouri State.
Yeah, great.
And the trophy was presented to look like an achievement that you get when you play a game on an Xbox console, and it was presented by the mascot from the Halo franchise.
That's great.
That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. It's still fun.
You know who would have been great in the Xbox Bowl? Kyler Murray.
Oh, well, you know what? He sure had a lot of time on his hands this year.
I would say he did,
but a major congratulations to the Hoosiers, and they've given hope to the Vanderbilts, who now have a foundation in place, to Duke, Maryland, the Rutgers of the world, and all of those programs. And Kurt Signetti said, "Hey, we did it at Indiana. It's possible anywhere."
Yeah, and before
it feels so storybook. God,
yeah,
so
it really does.
Disney.
It's a real life version of the Hoosiers movie, just with football instead of basketball. Before we close this section out, I want to give a shout out to my Facebook friend Fred Ramirez. He lives in Southern California, but he is an Indiana alum, and he has just been absolutely posting pictures of joy all week. So shout out to Fred, and congratulations to all you Hoosiers.
No doubt.
Indeed. And when we come back, we are going to talk about the National Football League. And I'm excited about this one, guys, because we have a new football coach in Nashville.
The Titans actually have something good to talk about for a change. Hooray!
Yes, that's long overdue. But we're going to talk about that when we come back here on the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle.
This is Three Rivers College women's basketball coach Alex Wiggs, and you are listening to the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle.
And we are back on the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle. And, yeah, I know there's some NFL playoffs going on, and there's a couple of really big games coming up on Sunday. But you know what? That ain't my biggest priority right now. I want to talk about the Tennessee Titans. That's my football team. They have been for almost 20 years now because we did something big Monday night right after the Indiana Hoosiers won the Natty. We hired a football coach, and we got a pretty dad-burn good one. We got Robert Saleh, who was the defensive coordinator of the 49ers this past season, was a big reason that Niners defense was one of the best in the league. It was still making noise even after they got gutted by injuries. And I think he's going to be fun to watch in Nashville. He did have a less than successful run as head coach of the New York Jets, but Vince Lombardi or Bill Belichick would have a tough time winning with the Jets.
Nobody can succeed with the Jets. The Jets are a garbage franchise that should be dissolved and relocated to St. Louis under new ownership.
That could work. But, yeah, I'm excited about this one. The big news now as of Wednesday morning when we're recording is who we're going to get as offensive coordinator. I was hoping we were going to get Mike McDaniel, but he is going to be Jim Harbaugh's offensive coordinator in Los Angeles. I almost called him San Diego.
That's terrifying. I mean, uniting McDaniel with Jim Harbaugh.
Justin Herbert.
Yeah, I mean,
imagine what he could do with a Justin Herbert.
Oh my God, and Omarion Thompson as his running back.
It's going to be interesting. As of Wednesday morning, we were still in the running for Brian Daboll, although he is also a candidate.
He's going to Buffalo.
We don't know yet.
He's going to Buffalo.
He absolutely should go to Buffalo.
Bet money on it. You can call me an idiot to my face in public if it doesn't happen. Buffalo is hiring Brian Daboll as their next head coach. It's a no-brainer.
He's the guy that fixed Josh Allen when he was the OC there. Writes itself.
And he did a great job with the Giants. I mean, it's like, he's the one who brought, prior to this past season, the best out of Daniel Jones. Even though he's an offensive guy, the Giants had a nasty defense, as the Vikings unfortunately found out in yet another first-round playoff loss. I think at this point they're just discussing details. Daboll is the guy. If I was in leadership at Buffalo, I wouldn't even be looking at anyone else right now.
It's going to be interesting, but getting back to Nashville, one thing that's going to be interesting, regardless of who we get as our offensive coordinator, is to see what Saleh does with our defense. We got Jeffrey Simmons to build around. We got a really good, interior linebacker in Cedric Gray. We need a lot of help in the secondary. We need edge rushers. Very intriguing name that I think is going to be on the free agent market is Trey Hendrickson out of Cincinnati. He's coming off an injury, but, man, he was a monster when he was healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you're going to have your pick of the litter when it comes to outstanding defensive players. Just looking at Mel Kiper's mock draft, not that I put that much stock in Kiper, but I mean it's just it's the first thing to click on ESPN. But he's got, of course, Mendoza going first, and then Arvell Reese, the all-world linebacker from Ohio State, going to start off his career in the wrong way with the New York Jets.
At the Meadowlands.
Francis Mauigoa, one of those big offensive tackles from Miami, going to Arizona, and David Bailey, the edge rusher from Texas Tech, going to Tennessee.
Who is pretty legit. Kyle, you got some thoughts on that?
Yeah, that guy's an absolute monster. I got to see a good amount of Texas Tech football this year. He's a disruptor, violent with his hands. Again, and I don't want to overhype for considering all of your needs, Mike, but he definitely gives me Javon Curse energy from those early years when he was every bit of what they called him, the freak. So you may be getting an absolute super stud at 4.
If that's who we get, we also need some help at wideout, which we may be more inclined to draft a wide receiver if we sign somebody like Trey Hendrickson in free agency. If we do, Carnell Tate pops out to me. One thing, I want to get back to him in a minute, but one thing that's also interesting about, the Titans under Saleh, Robert Saleh's a 4-3 guy on defense. And the Titans have been playing a 3-4 for over a decade where your edge rushers are stand-up linebackers, but Saleh's a guy where your edge rushers have been a hand-in-the-ground defensive ends. That's going to change that defense. At the last time the Titans ran a 4-3 on a regular basis was 23-13. That's going to be fun to watch, but we were talking about Carnell Tate. He was an absolute standout wideout in college. Kyle, tell me about him.
As polished a route runner coming into the draft, and granted, he's not the celebrated wide receiver at Ohio State. That's Jeremiah Smith, who I will make a prediction will be the number one pick in the 2027 draft, because when all else fails, draft a wideout from Ohio State. But Carnell Tate comes out of the box pro ready, similar to a JSN. He has a really, really big route running tree, great hands. He's the guy that Cam Ward would absolutely love. That's a number one option to go with Ao Manor and Shamir DK, who are, were really good rookie finds for you guys, for you this past season. But I'm just a big believer when all else fails and you can't think of who to pick. If there's a Buckeye wide receiver, you get them. Period. They don't. That's one position. If you ever notice, really, Ohio State wideouts do not bust as first-round picks.
No, of course not. If Saleh's serious about maintaining his 4-3 system and you're looking for traditional defensive ends, look no further than Reuben Bain Jr. coming out of Miami. He would be great in that position. And Jeffrey Simmons could definitely play the traditional DE also. So there's a lot of options that you guys have even at the number 4 side. I want to go back to this past week's divisional rounds.
Those are some good games. And
yeah.
I mean, hey, nobody really wants to hear about the Titans a lot, too much besides me. We want to talk about the playoffs, and guys, I'm going to let you have some fun with that.
Yeah, we talked over the weekend our hot takes on each of the 4 divisional games. We're going to start with that unfortunate Broncos-Bills game. I think all of the juice has been squeezed out of the terrible interception call. Ty usually goes to the receiver, except when the league wants the Broncos in the AFC Championship instead of the Bills. But here is my hot take now that the Bills have lost and their head coach has been fired. This is my hot take. The Bills are not going to make it to the Super Bowl with Josh Allen as their quarterback.
That's a big hot take, but you could be right.
And
there's just something off about the Bills in the playoffs. But here's the thing. Josh Allen don't play defense. You know how many points per game under Sean McDermott the Buffalo Bills gave up in 9 playoff games? 32.9.
Yeah.
That's not on Josh Allen.
It was a lot. And the reason that you can't surround Josh Allen with the talent that he needs to get over the top is because Josh Allen takes up so much of your salary cap.
Mm-hmm. Similar to Mahomes in Kansas
absolutely.
City.
Now, I have a radical idea for how to fix this problem with quarterbacks in a salary cap league. You exempt your quarterbacks from the salary cap. Just totally exempt them. Have a separate cap for quarterbacks that is different from the rest of your roster cap. So looking ahead at next season, the cap is estimated to be around $295 million. Okay.
Jesus.
Whatever you pay your quarterback does not factor into that math. Okay. That $295 million goes for the other 52 players on your roster. Okay. And then you put do a percentage of whatever that is. So your highest paid quarterback right now is Dak Prescott. So let's just say we tap a little bit more than that and say, okay, you can pay your quarterback up to $70 million a year average annual value, okay, and let the teams compete over that. It's not a problem of money. All of these owners are billionaires, and they have more than enough money. They could pay these quarterbacks $100 million if they wanted them badly enough. The problem is that it counts against your cap, and once you spend that much money on a quarterback, you're the Cincinnati Bengals. You don't have any money left for anybody else.
That's honestly, that's a wicked idea. But given that the pay structure is so much different for quarterbacks than, let's say, an all-pro center, you know what? It's not the worst. It's far from a bad idea, because how else are you going to be able to field a competitive football team if over half if about a third of your payroll goes to QB1? It's not that bad of an idea.
Yeah. And, it definitely, as it pertains to the Vikings, if the quarterback salary cap was different from the team salary cap, I absolutely believe the Vikings would have signed Sam Darnold to a long-term contract after his 14-win season. They would not have let him walk away. That was a financial decision more than anything else.
You don't feel that there was pressure on the front office of that? Hey, we drafted this kid JJ. We got to give him a chance. We got to play. Right. We got to play him
because he's on the rookie contract. Because that's why they spent second in the league on free agents to try to build a team that was with a roster that could go to the Super Bowl this year. They were betting that McCarthy would be good enough to get them into the playoffs, and then. And he almost was. I mean, just think about that. The Vikings were one bad kick return against Chicago away from possibly winning the division with those last games that they won. So they're even as bad as McCarthy was, including the injuries early on in the season. He got better as the season went along. I'm going to save it for another week after everything goes. We're going to see how this quarterback situation plays out in Minnesota. But I can tell you that I'm absolutely furious the attitude of both the fans and the media who are like, he's a bust, get rid of him. You know who looked like a bust last season? Caleb Williams. You know who looked like a bust this season? Jaden Daniels. You know who looks like he should be exiled to the New York Jets? C.J. Stroud. Okay?
No.
Young quarterbacks are unpredictable. How come Sam Darnold was so good for the Vikings last season? Because he had 6 years in the league. All right? And plain and simple, if you're not willing to give a young quarterback 5 or 6 years to develop on your team, maybe you do it like the Packers did with Jordan Love, where you sit him basically until the end of his rookie contract and then see how things look. But the way that NFL teams are developing young quarterbacks is just, it's ridiculous and it's wrong and it's completely counterproductive. And the fact of the matter is, it really is like hitting the lottery. And the Patriots definitely hit the lottery with Drake May, and that's my second hot take from the divisional round. Drake May is going to win at least 2 Super Bowls between now and the end of this decade. Before the 2030 season is over, Drake May will have won at least 2 Super Bowls.
I like that, actually. I like that one a lot. The right coach and culture change makes a world of difference, especially if you're a young quarterback on a rookie contract. And when you're the second overall pick, big things are expected. Mike Vrabel came in, and all of a sudden, the max potential in Drake May got unlocked instantly.
Yep.
Holy cow! Now, let's get into these ball games. AFC Championship. Yes, the Broncos are hosting. However, Bo Nix done against this New England defense, and good and well Mike Vrabel has that defense set to kill. 7th round draft pick, former Patriot, I might add, Jared Stidham. What? And there is so little footage of him. He's had a few starts in the league, mainly with the Raiders, and he hasn't had substantial playing time since his last year at Baylor. For the right to go to the Super Bowl, and this is the pressure you put on this kid. Again, what I believe could be a possible X factor is the fact that there is no sustainable footage on him, and who knows what Sean Payton could come up with at a home situation.
Yeah, it's going to be bubble screens and handoffs, and you mentioned the Patriots defense, which has been very impressive in the playoffs. Is even more impressive the Broncos defense.
Yes,
and they had, and here's the thing, I love Drake May. I wish that the Vikings had been able to convince New England to trade that pick and that he was our quarterback. And there's probably 30 other teams feel exactly the same way. Would love to have May as their quarterback. But here's the thing. He's looked like a rookie in these playoffs, okay? Mm-hmm. He's thrown picks. He has several fumbles. You can get to him. I mean, he's taken some sacks, not a ton. I mean, he doesn't look flustered. He doesn't look confused out there, but I mean, you can put pressure on him and you can force him into making mistakes. We've already seen it in 2 games with the Chargers defense and then with the Texans defense. Both teams with good defensive lineups, but they're nothing compared to the Broncos. So this is looking like a 10-7 game to me. This is looking like a game that could be scoreless at halftime.
You know what? This, to quote legendary wrestling announcer Jim Ross, this game could have bowling shoe tendencies. They could be bowling shoe ugly, and if that's what Denver has to do in order to protect Jarrett Stidham, is just try to grind it out, run the ball, clock control, because Denver runs the ball pretty well with, especially with R.J. Harvey, but New England has a 2-headed monster. But I would expect to see more of the home run hitter and Travion Henderson than the sledgehammer and Ramondre Stevenson.
But Stevenson's questionable with an injury, so they may not have him available.
Oh, so without all that being said, who do you got?
I've got 2 words. I've got 2 words for you. Nick Foles. I'm picking the Broncos.
No, not the same. No, it is not the same.
I'm picking Stidham to surprise everybody and play well enough to put the Broncos into the Super Bowl.
I'm going to go with Mark and agree.
Oh my goodness! Listen, I love Nick Foles. Thankfully, he continued to play football because not everybody knows that when he played for the Rams, Jeff Fisher had him so disgruntled he almost retired. Thankfully,
Jeff Fisher has that effect on people,
but that's the effect of Jeff Fisher as the Rams head coach is pure misery. But
go ahead. You can.
I'm not going to be shocked if Denver wins, but I'm going with New England. I think they got a little bit of extra juice. They are way better at stopping the run than Denver is. I'm taking the Pats on the road, but I'm not going to be shocked if Denver somehow pulls a rabbit out. And we have Jarrett Stidham in Super Bowl 60.
I can't take another 10 years of Pete in Southie talking about the Pats are the greatest team ever. I can't deal with it. I can't. They have to be stopped at least this year. It's too soon for another New England. It's too soon for another dynasty. All right, let's go to the NFC.
Let's.
Bears and Rams. Oh my God! By now, everyone has seen that amazing fourth quarter Russell Wilson-esque touchdown pass from Caleb Williams to Cole Kmet to tie that game at 17. I figured it was over for the Rams. Give all credit to the Rams to have the intestinal fortitude to shake off that terrible surrendered touchdown to come back, and all credit to MIZZOU thicker kicker Harrison Mevis for the game-winning field goal. Go ahead.
For clarification, I watched none of this game because I work graveyard and entertain the lovely folks overnight at my gas station job. However, you know what I woke up to? You screaming in the group chat. That was the greatest throw I've ever seen. I'm like, huh?
It really was.
What?
It was.
And then I saw it. I'm like, oh, good Lord, we deserve to lose. But Caleb threw an interception in overtime, and he had his moments where he looked like a rookie.
Yeah.
Credit to us for hanging in there, especially and that Chicago cold is a completely different animal. And I'm not saying that we can't handle it because we're an indoor West Coast team. We've got guys obviously who know what it's like to play in this kind of weather, and I felt we were decently equipped to be able to handle it because we run the ball pretty good. But yeah, shout out to the thicker kicker, Mizzou legend Harrison Mevis. I'm so glad we signed him. I always had a good feeling he just needed the right opportunity, and he found us and we found him, and so on and so forth. You know how crazy this is to say that the Rams and the Seahawks have never met in the postseason.
Really? That is
Never.
that is an interesting factoid.
For all of the years, and Seattle joined our division in 2002, we have never once met in the playoffs. And we have the number one scoring defense against the number one scoring offense, and it's a heated rivalry on the road for the right to go to the Super Bowl. And the irony is, no matter what, a hated rival of the 49ers is going to play in the Super Bowl in their stadium. God, I love that.
True. All right, here's my hot take out of the Bears-Rams game. Chicago, hold on to your hats. Caleb Williams will win a Super Bowl trophy for Chicago.
Oh, wow.
Is that allowed?
Scott Borgren, are you listening to us?
Yeah, Caleb Williams is going to bring Lombardi back to Soldier Field for the first time since 1985.
Dude, I feel that this is very possible. When was the last time that you could genuinely look at the Chicago Bears and think, man, they got a bright future?
1985.
I wasn't a thought yet.
Yeah, and look up just Google Punky QB.
I know all about Jim McMahon. You forget who I am. Listen, my name in high school was ESPN for a reason. Oh no, I know, but it's just been so long because the Bears have always had, when they've had good teams, there's always that missing aspect of a quarterback you could trust.
Yeah, and this is a team.
He's a bit like a wild horse. He needs, broken in a little bit, needs a little bit of taming. But clearly, we all see, he makes throws that are ridiculous,
impossible. He makes impossible throws, and I mean, another off season for Ben Johnson. To get Caleb on schedule most of the time with the ability to improvise the way that he can when he needs to. This is a team on the rise, and with Ben Johnson as their coach. I mean, I think it's pretty clear now that those 2 years of Detroit dominance were due mainly to Ben Johnson. All credit to Dan Campbell for being a leader of men and building that culture, but the secret sauce in that Detroit locker room was obviously Ben Johnson, because that offense hasn't been the same this season since he left.
Oh, no. And on an aside, to update with the coaching situation, Eric Bieniemy got lured back home to Kansas City.
Yay.
He's no longer with the Bears, and he's going back to take the job that he never should have left in the first place.
No, he shouldn't.
We'll see how that affects
the league
going
back
forward.
Yeah, let's put the league back on notice. The Chiefs will be back next season, especially with Bieniemy. Bieniemy as their HC. Spagnuolo's not going anywhere. He's going to be there for as long as he wants to be. So, and the Chiefs have the number 9 pick in the draft, so whoever they pick up is going to be a game changer.
Jeremiah Love out of Notre Dame.
Yeah, probably so.
It's going to be interesting.
Okay, the Seahawks destroyed the 49ers as expected. The 49ers are just absolutely running out of players thanks to injuries. All credit to Kyle Shanahan for getting that team to overachieve week after week, but just, more than they could handle at Seattle. And my hot take from that game is also my NFC Championship prediction and my Super Bowl prediction. This is my hot take. The Seahawks win the Super Bowl this year.
We're not friends anymore.
I'm sorry, but,
you're going to tell
change
me.
my mind.
You're
Change my mind.
Me,
change my mind.
No, you're going to fix your mouth to tell me in a trip to the Super Bowl situation you trust Sam Darnold.
I trust that Seahawks defense.
All right.
I trust.
We'll have to put something on that.
Well, burger and fries. That's my.
Hey, I'm with it.
Okay.
Yeah, heard it here, folks.
And I know you're on the other side of the state, but just pick your poison, and I'll send you a gift card.
Fair enough. Because listen. I know it is incredibly hard to go into, I believe, Lumen Field. I forget what the hell the Seahawks stadium name is now.
Who can keep track of any of those?
It is so hard to go win there, but we've proven we can.
Yes,
we should have beaten them in the. We should have beaten them in that 3-point conversion fiasco game.
Right.
But my you know what my biggest concern is, if you go look statistically at the Seahawks in terms of the disparity of targets in the passing game, they do not throw to anyone but JSN.
Right.
People forget that Cooper Kupp's on this team. You don't think that with this one opportunity, and there's obviously no beef between him and our organization, but you don't think that the Seattle would be relishing the chance to feed him in a situation to go to the Super Bowl, and he beats the only other team he's ever played for?
The problem is
that concerns me.
Well, the reason they're not doing it, the problem is he's too slow to beat the coverage.
I get that, but at the same time, red zone situations, if Seattle gets into enough of those, which hopefully they don't, or he could still be that guy that can nickel and dime you on 3rd and shorts.
Well, I think if the Rams are going to win this game, and I'm not saying that they can't, I'm not saying that there's no chance. Obviously, the Rams are a powerhouse team, but they have to absolutely take all of the dogs on defense off of the leash and send them straight ahead into one location, and that is Sam Darnold's midsection. They have to hit him over and over and over again, because that is the way. Pressure itself does not bother him. He's good under pressure. But when you start hitting him and knocking him down, that's when he starts to see ghosts. So that's going to be the key on defense. I think they're going to be okay against the run. Unfortunately for Seahawks fans, Zach Charbonnet tore his ACL. And by the way, what is the deal this season with torn ACLs?
Oh my God!
Yeah, I mean it's like that epidemic of Tommy John surgeries that we had several years ago in Major League Baseball, where it's like, can a pitcher get through the season without tearing that elbow ligament? It seems to be like the same thing. So get their defense after Darnold. Sack him if you can. Hit him every time you can get away with it. And then on offense, just control the ball as much as possible. They're going to have to lean heavily on that run, which is going to be tough against the Seahawks, who I think have the best run defense in the league. But you're going to have to run to set up that pass. Of course, they still have space alien Puka Nacua, and hopefully Devontae Adams will be fully back. I think Adams was hindered last week in Chicago, with the hamstring injury and with the cold. I would suspect that he probably was never at full strength, full speed in that cold with that recovering hamstring. So if they can get Adams back to full speed, I think that they can run to set up the pass. But ball control is going to be the key. I think if the game ends up being a shootout, the Rams are going to end up on the wrong side of it. I think if they can control the ball and keep each team below 30 points, I think the Rams might have an edge. But, I've already wagered that the Seahawks are going to win. But let's say this. Whoever gets in on either side, if it's Broncos, Seahawks, the league's two best defenses squaring up against the other. If it's Patriots, Rams, a rematch of maybe the worst Super Bowl we ever had a few years ago, and the last one that the Patriots won. Or maybe we get Broncos, Rams. That's a first time matchup. Yeah, I think that would definitely favor the Rams. In fact, I think the Rams are going to be favored against the Broncos or the Patriots if they can get past the Seahawks. The opposite of true. The Seahawks come out of the NFC, they're going to be favorites over the AFC team. But however you arrange these games, whoever comes out on top, I think it's going to be a really exciting Super Bowl matchup.
I just realized something. There's a lot of PTSD that the Patriots have caused us and the Seahawks.
Absolutely.
I just realized that.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, the entire league, the entire nation outside of the Massachusetts greater area is suffering from PTSD. By the way, some imbecile on ESPN, I know who it was. It was Rex Ryan, so I stand by my description. Television imbecile Rex Ryan said that the Bills should hire Bill Belichick as their next head coach.
Excuse me?
Yes, I know, the stupidest thing I've ever heard. It's like, he can't win at North Carolina. What's he going to do with Buffalo?
By the way, did you know who his new offensive coordinator is at North Carolina?
No idea.
We got Bobby Petrino. Dear Lord.
Why is he allowed to hold a job in organized sports?
Yeah, that's a whole nother change. That's a whole clown show at UNC.
Yeah,
but
I mean, it's like making Bill Clinton a girls volleyball coach. Come on.
Well, I love them cankles.
Hey, before we close out today, I want to give one big shout out. Congratulations to the two newest members of the Baseball Hall of Fame.
Hell yeah.
Braves great Andrew Jones, and he was only with the Cardinals for a few years, but he's still a legendary Cardinal figure in St. Louis history. Carlos Beltran. Congratulations.
Not only that, he's a legend. He's a legendary ball player in the state of Missouri. People forget about the amazing start to his career with the Royals.
Oh,
Right.
yeah, that's right. So, yeah, well-deserved. Glad to see both of those gentlemen get elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame. So, great big shout-out to them.
Agreed.
Definitely.
Agreed, guys. And that's our show for this week. Good Lord willing, we'll be back at it again next week. I'm Mike Bueller.
I'm Mark Sanders.
And this is Kyle Roberts.
And you have been listening to the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle.